Trucks. It's raining in New Mexico. It's a good thing they make trucks waterproof because we've got a truckload of computers that we're taking to Denver, all new state of Colorado. Very exciting. Isaac, how are you?
Hi. I'm doing all right. I'm this weekend. This is Monday, but it's my weekend. 2 days. The second of two. I've been feeling better than I have for a while. It's been a difficult month. We had the big snow here and the big ice, and that was both personally challenging and challenging job-wise. My power went out for a day or two. Actually, about exactly a day.
Oof.
And there was a lot of adventures with putting chains on my car and attempting to get it out of my dead-end street. Sometimes successfully, sometimes not. A lot of stress. And a reminder of how tenuous our civilization is. It's like, boy, if my power doesn't come back on, a thing which I personally have no control over, things are going to get real bad real fast.
Indeed.
It's like, oh. And then you go and see stories afterward about how our entire infrastructure was, built in the 40s and was made to last 50 years, and is now like a couple decades overdue for being fixed. And yeah, specifically our electrical grid is like way overburdened, basically across the entire country. Like what's happening in Texas is just like the most visible offshoot of that.
Indeed.
And because we privatized all of these utilities, there's been no incentive for anybody to repair things or to prepare for things unless they are, actively broken.
It's all so good.
It is also good, but the sheer relief of that having been over and the sun coming out a little bit has improved my mood. Although we are also apparently about to get a Pineapple Express over here, which is just a lot of rain. And I work outside. So it presents its own unique set of challenges.
Do you think they'll ever update American Truck Simulator to reflect the fact that America is now a snow-blasted, fire-scorched, hurricane-soaked country at all times?
I mean, surely what we are trying to do with this is to drive through the America that was, not the America that is.
Honey, I shrunk the America, but at least I fixed the climate.
Exactly. It's not on fire at any point. Yeah. The worst things that happen is the occasional traffic accident.
And the occasional
road closure. That's me. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm okay. Same old.
Yeah, same fucking old. We don't really have a topic in mind. We just sort of realized that it was time to do a trucks at this point.
We kind of sort of had agreed to talk about how we've been wasting our time lately, like how we've been distracting ourselves from the horrors.
Yeah, I was gonna see. I have a fixation cycle, as
it's a useful thing to have in this day and age.
Yeah, I have enough of that hyperfixation business in me to happen, and they tend to last years. When we first met, I was in Homestuck, deep in Homestuck, and then as Homestuck waned, I became deep into professional wrestling, and that is waned now. Although I'm still keeping an eye on it, and I'm terribly worried that
there was sort of an indie roguelike phase in between those.
Oh, that's not really. That's sort of a low-level constant. Like, when I say fixation, I'm like, I didn't, go out of my way to research...
That's true.
XCOM. I didn't play modded stuff. You had to tell me about that,
you didn't aspect watch Indie Game the movie, as far as I know, to get those sweet interviews with the Meat Boy developers. They were actually kind of the best part of that movie.
I didn't... That's very clearly a thing that I do because it has an immediate, palliative effect on me, rather than something that I can have an interest in with a capital I and learn facts about.
Yeah. But I kind of trampled over your segue into VTubers.
Yeah, we already mentioned VTubers in the most recent trucks. And at that point, in a recent trucks, and at that point, I was like, oh, this is an interesting, cultural development from, let me put on my anthropologist hat, and perhaps we can glean some interesting, noodles about Japan and gender and performance and all of this stuff. That was then, and now I'm like, I know all their names and their relationships and their specialties, and there's so many of them, and like I've barely even scratched the surface, and I'm terribly worried that this could consume years of my life. Like, I would prefer that not to happen. What has happened now is that for some reason, because of like rights issues, they couldn't stream Undertale, but that got fixed like this week. And so there's a bunch of VTubers streaming Undertale, and a sort of miniature fixation that I had for a long time was watching as many Let's Plays of Undertale as I can. So like
This is
5 years ago's
sauce.
fixation is now meshing with this emerging fixation. It's a potent cocktail. I don't feel great about it, but I have noticed that I can't stop talking about it, which is a bad sign.
Well, why don't you like it? I think is maybe the thing I'm the most interested in here. Why not just let yourself be interested in this?
The thing about dropping into these like obsessive fan states is that although you do glean some cool stuff out of them, like as we've said many times before, I cannot thank Homestuck enough for all that it has brought into my life, despite despising it and its creator at this point. But it runs its course, and at the end of it, you feel like sort of bitter and alienated from it. You feel like you've lost uncountable time to something that wasn't actually very important or interesting. And if you think about it with your real brain, you're like, well, that's what you do with most of your time anyway. You watch TV or the local equivalent, so you were having a good time. What's the problem? It's not like you were going to spend all of that time
Composing a novel. Yeah,
writing the great American novel, exactly. But at this point, sort of supping the bitter dregs of pro wrestling, I still have the taste of that sort of long letdown in my mouth, and I'm like, do I really want to embark upon this again? Can I mediate this so that the relationship stays healthier and that I don't bore all of my friends with my constant chatter about this subject? So that's sort of where I'm at with it. And so I don't actually want to embark on a monologue about all of the fun little specific ins and outs of it right now.
Sure.
I just want to maintain, man. I just want to maintain.
Well, so it sounds like it's not really the thing itself. It sounds like you might be worried that it's all going to turn terrible. Is it terrible yet?
Oh, I mean, it's like, I don't understand how it's not worse right now. Like, I feel like this feels like, what the community feels like to me is sort of the My Little Fandom pony right before it went toxic,
Yeah.
Like, there's so many opportunities for this to go so horribly wrong, and it's all sort of, managed in this sort of individual ad hoc way by these personalities who, and skill at managing this shit is part of the job description, of course. But, I'm trained to think of, like, asking, men to behave themselves on the internet as being just like this impossible task.
Sure.
But it seems to be relatively self-regulating and doing a relatively good job of it at this point,
Yeah. It seems mostly pretty wholesome.
It does.
Like, where it's
I don't
horny,
trust it.
It is like horny in a kind of self-consciously fun way that makes
Yeah, the streamers who have decided to be horny are in charge of the horniness,
Yeah.
And like, of course, there's a sort of transactional emotional service element to the whole affair, but that's explicit. You simp, and you're given the feels as a result of that.
Sure.
Although I'm mixing 2 years of internet language there.
Is simp old already?
No, but feels is.
Oh, feels. Yeah. See, to me that's like a plain old English word. In my millennial brain.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
And yeah, and it's like, yeah, all right, everybody seems to be pretty cognizant of what's going on here. Let's just ride this train for as long as it lasts. Today, I woke up and found that one of my favorites, Corone, has woke up because it's another one of my favorites. Whoa, hold on, hang on. Shoosh, what is happening?
I don't know.
Sorry, I was messing with something and then started talking. I do apologize.
We're back.
I don't. Please, yes. So one of my favorites, Corone, this morning decided to compose a song for another one of my favorites, Okayu's birthday. So I woke up to hear this a cappella composition, which is like weirdly avant-garde and almost like Eastern European choral music, and is basically a you know, because there's an ongoing storyline where Corone has, you know, a long-term crush on Okayu, and they've been friends in real life since before they do this, but Okayu is dating, in quotes, some other YouTuber, and so Corone has this, like, you know, I will forever protect your smile even though your eyes have wandered to other people, saying this in, you know, sort of haunting, reverb-drenched, kind of dissonant harmony with herself. And she streamed herself doing this while wearing a giant headdress shaped like a birthday cake. And that was just a day. I just woke up and that was there.
Yeah, that sounds like a thing.
You know, they do. Every one of them is doing stuff every day, and there's like, I'm not interested in watching a 6-hour Minecraft stream, but like, I love the Minecraft world that they've created with themselves. It seems like the perfect thing. Like, a shared Minecraft world. Isn't that just amazing?
Is
like
it?
You build. I don't
know. I've never been a Minecraft person, but yeah, it seems it's a nice thing.
I don't
to
know.
have.
It's like having this sort of environment where you can sort of, the space where you can build and play together.
Yeah, it's
and
very wholesome.
You know,
if you're into building, if you're not into building, it's, you know.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's always. So yeah, I can see how just watching other people construct it because you like their personalities.
It's not even the constructing it that I'm interested in. It's watching them be in it after it has been constructed, because all of their various like homes and areas reflect their own personalities. I don't know how that's possible. I mean, possible. I mean, the secret is that these are all like extremely talented people.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of however naive the characters that they are playing might be. But
it sounds like perfectly good pandemic entertainment to me. I'm sorry that you feel it's taking over your mind, but who can blame you? Honestly, there's so few things to put into one's mind right now.
That is true. Although actually, I should take this opportunity. I wanted to do this at the start, but I want to plug another podcast that I'm currently doing. Although I guess Trucks isn't really a podcast, but I'm doing a podcast called Wizards vs. Lesbians with my friend Alexis, which is very specifically a book podcast about a certain genre of science fiction books featuring wizards battling lesbians, and we've noticed that there's like a bunch of them that have come out in the last 5 years. So we're discussing them one by one. If that sounds interesting to you, and if those are books that you have read, check it out. You can search it up on iTunes or wherever. But that's another thing that I've been doing with my time.
Nice. Without a good segue, I'll just start talking about my things now.
Go for it.
I have discovered... I don't really have anything super new, but my love for Monster Hunter has continued to deepen and to blossom. I think it's been a while now that I've been playing these games. Whenever the iOS version of Freedom Unite came out was when I started, and that was probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago now, and I've been keeping current with it since then. And really, they just in that time they've been releasing a good number of games, and they haven't released a single dud, and that's impressive because stuff keeps changing in this series. Let me tell you about a few touches in this game that I think makes it a really class act. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So every different version of Monster Hunter kind of has a different central gimmick, in a way.
Yes.
Way back when, there was the one with underwater combat, where you had to worry about holding your breath and like the way your weapon behaved differently underwater. Then they didn't do that again. And the next one was about like jumping on top of monsters. That is a feature that they kept, but there was a game where that was a central focus. And then the next one, like you got like more devices. You've got a kind of slingshot arm thing. you've got a grappling hook, and in the one that's coming out soon, you've got weird bugs that let you do cool, like, wire stunts. And what's so neat about this to me is not just the fact that they're always experimenting with the gameplay, which is cool, but the fact that they are able to sort of blend that with, like, the local narrative of each group of hunters that you're playing as. Like, these things are all presented as, like, the way that your specific village or whatever is, like, adapting to their environment, you know? And that's classy. That's love and attention, you know?
Effort is being made here.
Indeed. Like,
to deepen the reality of it.
Yeah, man. Like, they know what they have here.
Can it be too long before we upload our brains? Like, these virtual worlds are becoming more and more developed, and
well, certainly right now. Yeah.
As the real world goes to shit around us, it feels like abandoning this flesh is got to be the next step.
I don't think I'd want to live in Monster Hunter World. The story there is not very good. But the presentation sure is good. Here's like a more minute...
At least it's internally consistent.
Here's a more minute thing that I dig. There's always, like, the new game coming out has one thing that sort of bugs me. It bums me out a little bit. They've made it so that your previous silent type protagonist, he now likes to make quips during combat, you know? It's always lame when games do that. And these are, like, especially lame. You're beating up the monster and saying, like, I hope you have insurance!
Oh, no.
Like, why?
It's a monster. Monsters don't have insurance.
Yeah. Get ready for pain. You know, just like, who thought this? Who wants to hear anyone say that? But get this. Not only can you switch the entire language of the game into Japanese or into Monster Hunter gibberish language to make that a little bit more palatable. Not only are there individual volume sliders for NPC voice and the player voice separately, but also there is an option on top of those two which lets you modify the frequency with which your character speaks. You can either have it happen rarely, sometimes, often, or never. And
perfect.
Yeah, dude, just once again,
everybody should give you the option to opt out of their horrible updates.
Just evidence of caring. It's what you love to see.
That's accessibility for people who are unable to handle cringe.
Yes,
know?
Dude.
It's just as important as, like, stuff for photosensitive people.
Yeah. But on a higher level, to speak of myself, Monster Hunter has more or less, like, for the most part, it's replaced my drive to play new games. I mean, part of this, I think, is just that I'm getting older, and video games are, I don't know, like, I still find them interesting, but it is harder to bring myself to play, to, like, invest a ton of hours into new ones. And there's, like, this is not to say that there aren't plenty of games that I wish I could bring myself to play through, because there certainly are. But, yeah, Monster Hunter is one of the ones that still easily grabs me. And it's nice to have that, I think. Nice to have that kind of relationship with something.
Yeah. I often wonder how, like, Pat and Wooly maintain their interests in video games at this point in time. I guess it's the difference between being a true fan of a genre and being it's their job, Isaac. It's their job to be interested in video games. They're paid to do that. That would help. It
seems legit, though, with them. Or at least it sure appears to be legit. I can't imagine that they would have gotten out of the video game streaming business and then gotten back into it if it wasn't legit with them.
That is
Either
true.
that, or it's the only thing they know how to do anymore, which is certainly
I don't know.
possible.
I listen to their podcasts these days mostly for the non-video game related subjects.
What else do they talk about?
Politics sometimes. They talk politics. I mean, they talk about the failures of capitalism a lot, like, you know, through a video game. Yeah, exactly. But, like, it turns out that video games are a great way to talk about the failure of capitalism.
Totally.
And so, like, I like to get that content, even though they might be talking about a particularly stupid or, corrupt development process.
It really
I
is
can be interested in that without being interested in whatever video game it is that it's related to, you know?
It really is a perfect shining example that in an effort to make the most money possible out of video game releases, the pattern has been that games increasingly make nobody happy. You know, they fill themselves with what is universally recognized as annoying bullshit, which nonetheless is how you make the big bucks.
Yeah, no, they're just very patiently documenting how, you know, the profit motive has ruined sports games and has ruined, you know, this and has ruined that, and has, you know, how these people are happily
Monster Hunter yet.
selling stuff to children. Yeah, no, I mean, Japanese game developers are bad in a different way.
Yeah, sometimes in the same way. I mean, gacha is a Japanese thing too. They got their loot box stuff when they want to.
It seems to be...
Street Fighter's all about buying costumes now.
You gotta make your money somewhere. Nobody plays fighting games. It can't all be Nintendo.
Yeah. Even within the same publisher as Monster Hunter, you know, Tekken's DLC has gotten kind of questionable over the years. Seemingly releasing like uber powerful characters on purpose, that kind of thing, making it so that you can't go into training against characters unless you own those characters. That's pretty questionable. But with Monster Hunter, the priority still seems to just be to make as high quality a game as possible. And yeah, like, it has been getting a little more accessible over the years, a little easier, a little like less grindy, but not in a way that, you know, and you know that I'm sensitive to that kind of thing, right? But I do find that they haven't done it in a way that's spoiled it just yet.
Well, I hope that they keep their grubby mitts off of your safe place. in much the same way that they've kept their grubby mitts off of Tumblr despite their best efforts. You know, Tumblr is just as terrible as it ever was, but the profit motive and trying to squeeze extra cash out of it has absolutely nothing to do with it, because nobody can squeeze any cash out of it. Which is why it's currently the best social media site.
You know what's kind of weird, though, is that I find that I spend more time sort of thinking about playing Monster Hunter or wishing I was playing Monster Hunter than I do actually playing it.
Is that so? That's interesting.
Yeah. I think that might just be a Josh brain situation.
It sounds like it. It's definitely not how my brain works. If there's candy in front of me, I shovel it into my fucking mouth.
Yeah.
90% of my personality is Isaac fails the marshmallow test, as far as I can tell. I've finished, over the last week or so, I finished, well, not entirely, but I got pretty close to 100%ing Super Mario 3D World, and I beat Bowser's Fury in the last couple of days. Mm-hmm. Just might as well while I'm doing other stuff.
I'm looking forward to playing through 3D World. I haven't done so yet, and I loved 3D Land. We were talking about this off stream the other day.
Yeah. 3D World is lovely. Oh, Hazel, this reminds me that Hazel mentioned that she would like us to expand on something that we said in a recent Trucks, which is that Mario is the point of contact between us.
Is that... wait, how is that... Remind me what the hell we were saying.
We were talking about how our aesthetic preoccupations and how Mario occupies a space in the overlap of that Venn diagram.
Well, what it is that Isaac and I both like things that are
good.
Yes, I was looking for a more specific way to say it, like things that are kind of aesthetically complete, you know.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. Mario jump.
Mario certainly. I have, like, there are very few Mario games where I don't have sort of a bummer or two about its design. Usually that they skip out on the hard Mario, which is where it really shines. But Odyssey is a game with perfect movement, but its level designs just aren't really there. But regardless, as an aesthetic object, you know, Mario is not only just well executed. He's this is what we talked about already, I guess, but he has that magic to him. He ascends, he transcends his medium somehow. Is this the right thing? It is the right thing.
We dig those archetypes.
Yeah.
The culturally complete morphemes that are inexplicable in their origin and yet have always existed.
Yeah.
The Italian plumber who jumps.
It's hard to imagine a video games without Mario.
It is indeed.
And I feel so complicated about saying that about a mascot, and yet it seems undeniable with Mario.
Well, Nintendo's capitalist behavior is a whole nother...
Here we go.
It's a whole nother subject. You
What's
ready to deal with this?
What's my play? Oh, we're so close to where I'm going. I guess I can just kind of...
I think this trucks might have been a little too short.
Maybe I can just... Yeah, it might have been. We can fly around in free cam if we have more to say.
That's true.
I guess I'll just try going into town and... Yeah, getting back on the highway. If not, I don't think there's any reaching Denver. So, you know... I feel like they didn't do the best of jobs with these road closures and making sure they don't ruin everything.
Maybe you can turn them off. Maybe that's just like in Monster Hunter. Maybe we can mess around in the settings and eliminate the police. If only.
Eliminate the police.
Yeah.
This game needs cop chases. What else do you want to talk about? Another thing I've been spending... This is something I meant to actually bring up on the New Year's trucks, but forgot to. Actually, there's a couple of those things.
Well, let's go for it.
James Howell, friend of the show, has been doing streams lately, and he's been doing that twice a week. It's been a great way to spend some time. Very chill, small, kind of similar to the vibe we have here. Small chat and on the Twitch stream. Good discussions that play out. Nice sense of humor. Good. The game choices are kind of retro and interesting. Things you wouldn't normally see. He's got a setup where he's like streaming games directly from a Commodore 64 now. We saw Ducks Ahoy. That was pretty tasty.
Neat.
Yeah. And a lot of PS2 games, stuff like that. So that's been nice. And
cool. What's the name of his channel if people want to check it out?
Delta Head.
All right.
Connected with the podcast that I participated in a little bit ago with video games and poetry. The other thing was I spent a lot of 2020 kind of passing through the eye of the needle with Receiver, which I really should have talked more about on the 2020 tricks, because that was definitely a characterizing feature of 2020 for me, was that I became like kind of a late stage beta tester on Receiver 2 and have kind of continued to test upcoming content with it. And like I've gotten to have discussions with the guy who wrote and voiced the tapes in Receiver 1 about what he really thinks about all of it and stuff. It's been nice. Kind of a unique and interesting interaction to kind of peer behind the curtain a little bit on this, art object that I had such a profound connection with a few years back, and still do to some extent.
That's awesome. I think we should all get to experience those things with appropriately small-scale creators. Yeah, is his interpretation dovetail with yours?
He definitely he takes it a lot further than I had with Receiver 1, and I think Receiver 2 does as well. I don't want to talk too much about his stuff because a lot of it wasn't even made public in Receiver 2, which expands on the lore a great deal already. But
how serious is he about it on a scale of 1 to 10? How much of it is performative and how much of it is real?
I mean, it's not. He certainly doesn't believe that kill drones are real, right? But
yes,
he.
I wasn't expect that would be 12 on this scale.
He's definitely talking. He's definitely trying to communicate about some real things in it, and not just kind of the easy interpretation of Receiver 2, which I think is.
Oh shit! We're at the Denver airport. We should be able to see the giant blue horse statue somewhere.
Huh. Maybe they'll probably take us right past it if they know what they're doing.
Yeah, maybe we can fly around and find it.
Sure. But yeah, there are things that you might expect are supposed to be metaphorical in that game, which aren't so metaphorical in his mind. But I think it is worth pointing out also that it is written in such a way that it can be taken as a metaphor on purpose,
It's all very Philip K. Dick. I don't know if I said that when we were talking about Receiver before, but it gives me strong Valis vibes in some respects.
Have you
ever read any Dick?
No.
You might enjoy some Dick.
I bet I would.
I do. I beg your pardon. But yeah, I think that you might get a kick out of his particular sort of paranoid / visionary way of looking at the world.
Yeah, I do dig that sort of aesthetic. Receiver 2 is a fascinating game. And, I think Receiver 1 approached perfection, although it's a perfection that so dearly wanted to be expanded upon. It's a game that just can always craves more features and more explanations. Is that the horse over there? I see a blue thing. Looks like it probably
that's looking possibly like it could be it. You want
get
to
a
leave
better
your
look
body
at that in a second. Let me just get close to let me get out of the road. Is this going to open up for me? I hope so. Receiver 2 is maybe less perfect.
Hey.
It's I feel personally as though its reach might exceed its grasp in a few places, but a nice thing about it is that it's a game about channeling messages, and it contains awareness that it is difficult to channel perfectly, and so in a way that you could dismiss as mere lampshading, I think it encompasses its own imperfections in a way which is actually quite elegant and interesting and even important and meaningful, I might say.
Cool.
Let's go. I'm
tempted to say that. Yep, there he is.
Oh my God.
I'm glad that is startlingly accurate. Although I think, did they? Yep. Is that the junk? They also included the junk. Nicely done.
Yeah, they did. Wow. What were you tempted to say a moment ago?
Kudos. Oh yeah, I just wanted to say, that's neat too. I just wanted to say that having watched today a VTuber break down in tears of joy after beating Sans after several days worth of streaming in an attempt to do it, and then immediately break down in tears of sadness after killing him. I think that Undertale is also a perfect game.
Wow.
Yep. And its sequel is also less perfect because it's trying to do more. Although we will table that judgment until the sequel is actually complete, whenever that turns out.
Sometimes the only way to move forward artistically is to dismiss the idea of perfection. This is a sad truth that I often have trouble admitting.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how. I think it depends on your relationship with the art and stuff, but it's
I'm thinking along the lines of
as you do it, you learn how to do it, and you lose some of the naive enthusiasm that you had.
Yeah.
Which can contribute to that sort of perfection. There he is.
Oh boy.
It's so cool that this is an actual place that exists in the world. That statue killed its creator?
What? I've never seen... I mean, I've probably seen a picture of it before, but what is the deal with the horse? I don't understand it.
Let me get the Wikipedia article up so that I can give you the appropriate... Yes, okay, so first of all, the horse's name is Blucifer.
Blucifer, that sounds familiar.
That's its nickname, at least. The actual name of the statue is Blue Mustang.
Blue Mustang.
It is 32 feet tall, weighs 9,000 pounds.
God.
The sculptor was killed by the head of the sculpture falling on him and severing an artery in his leg.
I mean,
It
certainly has a malignant aura.
Yeah, it is deeply cursed.
Why did they design such an evil horse? What's the reason? I mean, it just kind of feels like the horse knew that it had to be made, and it found someone to make it, rather than... There's no reason why someone would choose to make this for an airport that I can think of.
I don't even wish to yeah. Sometimes these things just enter the world, and the eyes light up like that.
It's a good thing we came here at night.
It's a thing.
Let's get some cool shots. I can't remember how to turn off my UI right now, or else I would. Or maybe I do remember. That's not how. That's how.
I miss airports.
Yeah.
Can I just say? I love those big, fucking stupid liminal buildings. And unsustainable, giant flying gas-powered tubes.
There's a console command in here somewhere to change the time of day, which I would do if I could remember what it was, but all I know how to do is change my fly speed to get a nice elevation on this shot of some cars.
I guess one of the good things about this sort of fixation behavior that I exhibit is that it does put me in line of things which remind me that humanity is worthwhile. And I feel like this is one of them. This horse here. And sure, it's, it just happens to coincide with a number of my interests. Horses, follies, irony.
Whoa.
Incongruities. What is happening?
If you get too close to the plane, it disappears. I wanted to get a head-on shot of it taking off, but we'll get this instead.
This is kind of beautiful in and of itself, to be honest.
I hope it looks okay on YouTube.
I mean, it's kind of a smear of dark colors over the stream here, but it's still.
I could convert it into Isaac Vision for a bit. Yeah, it probably looks a lot better to you than it does to me right now.
Could be. I love this world that we live in, even though it is stupid and currently falling apart. That is incidentally
I love it too.
One of the themes of the podcast is that
beauty surrounds us.
Alexis that I'm doing. No, it's that all of these books about wizards versus lesbians are also basically about living in a decaying empire.
I see.
That
yeah,
seems
for a
to be
second, I thought you meant trucks. I think it is a theme of trucks that beauty surrounds us.
It is definitely a theme of trucks of the world. It's beautiful, and it's an interesting way to experience that beauty in this like highly mediated and yet extremely sincere way. Like it. Sometimes it's easier to express sincerity through this sort of highly mediated circumstances.
It's true.
I remember a trucks that we recorded way back in the day when we sort of barreled in after a long day and we were both really tired and it was raining in the trucks. This was back when we were in Europe, Truck Simulator, and I believe that one is called Sleepy Pooped, and we just sort of
yeah, I have very vague memories of that one being fun.
Yeah, but we were,
very
we were
vibey.
exhausted from real world activities. But I'd like to hope that Trucks maintains a sliver of that vibe, even though we're now so far away from each other and the world is
it's bumming us out.
Somehow much colder than it used to be, but
yeah,
both metaphorically and recently literally.
We are constantly in search of the beauty, you and I. Just as I am currently a disembodied camera, taking peeks at things, trying to frame them up nicely. It's all about the frame, It's all about how you crop the shot.
Yeah. I'm so sorry for walking all over what was going to be an excellent way to end this Trucks.
You did? I didn't notice.
Oh, I thought when you said it's all about the frame and you got that beautiful shot and then that would be the end. But then I decided that I wanted to bring up something that I heard on a podcast. This is also a good frame, but it reminded, when you said I am a camera, it reminded me. There was a story about a woman whose brain works like ours works, where she's constantly like introspecting and thinking and doubting and judging, but she had a friend who said that she didn't do that.
Ooh.
And
Weird.
Her friend was like, "What? Are you some sort of alien?" But she talked to her friend, and as far as I could tell, it basically, sort of executive function happens on a spectrum, right? And you and I are over on one side of that, or in various places on one side of that. But on the other side of that are people who don't have an internal monologue, and those people exist.
Weird.
And she was like, and the person who was interviewing this woman said, my head is kind of like a washing machine. Things are circling around, or always in motion, moving around it in a circle at all times.
Yeah.
And the other person was like, that does not feel in any way familiar to me.
Yeah.
And so the other person was like, what machine are you then? She's like, I'm a camera.
Oh, God.
I just looked out through my eyes.
I mean, sometimes I feel like a camera, but I'm very much a camera that judges,
Yeah. This person apparently was just like, yeah, no, I just sort of see things as they come.
I guess Myers-Briggs accounts for that with the P and the J.
Yeah, perceiving versus judging. So I've always been when I take those tests, I'm always very balanced on that arc. But
yeah, I think
some people who are like super perceivers are really fascinating to me.
Yeah. I think I tend to be balanced there too. I've scored as, I mean, I've only ever taken the online ones, which are 50% more bullshit than the already pretty bullshitty test.
Thank you. Yes.
But yeah, I think I've been both INFJ and INFP depending on my mood.
Yep, same.
This is a good one. I like this one.
That is a good one. Good job. You're always very good at framing.
Why, thank you.
That's yet another one of your many skills.
Let's go see how bad this looks when we get close. Oh my god, this is already getting really cool. There's something off with the perspective. I don't think they've used this trick before. Oh, but now it's getting normal.
Oh no.
Weird. Did I imagine that forced perspective thing that was happening? I'm becoming fascinated by this now because when I get
Truckos,
further away,
if you're not interested in this, tough.
No, come on. That's weird. The buildings start moving at a different speed, but when you get closer to them, they are indeed a full 3D object.
That's amazing. It's like
I've never
they're part
seen
of
that before.
Oh, but they are floating in the void.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gorgeous. I love it. Speaking of virtual environments that would be wonderful to exist in.
That's so... it's not just trucks that I've never seen this before. Like, I've never seen that in a video game where it, like, makes something look further away by kind of forcing it away from you.
Yeah.
I lost where we were
It felt like parallax scrolling there for a moment.
Yeah.
But no, it's actually 3D.
But if you kind of stick to the road...
It makes perfect sense. Like, it's, exactly. It's forced perspective. It is 100% forced perspective from the road.
Yeah.
Good job, you guys.
Nice one.
This state was totally worth paying $11 for before we started today. We've gotten so much out of it.
All right, oh my god. I mean, it freaks you out a little bit. Someday I'll show you a map in Counter-Strike that does an absolutely terrifying version of something sort of like this. There's like a tower where the base of it is in the play space, but the top of it is in the skybox, and normally it looks fine, but if you get even slightly out of the intended play space, it just becomes a horrifying monster, where the tower is like looming massively over everything. Yeah, I think we're probably... Was there anything else you wanted to call out before this one's over?
Let's park the truck.
Yes, let's park the truck.
And call it a day.
Here's my truck. Presumably still in its parking spot. I think it's still green. Yeah, okay. The button is T, right?
Is it?
Yes. Excellent.
There you go. Well, another fine trucks out of the way.
Yeah.
We hope that everybody is surviving. That's pretty much what we can hope for at this point.
This was a nice, soothing conversation that we shouldn't ruin by, with slightly ominous statements like that one.
I thought that was a nice thing to say, personally, but fine.
I mean, no, the sentiment is appreciated.
I'm sorry.
It's tough times out there, and we hope you're all doing good, of course.
I've been in a weird mood lately, as those who know me will attest. But trucks are forever. This will go on forever.
Yep. Good night, or whatever, everybody. Enjoy your truck.
Bye.